Yesterday I had to make a drive to go mow the lawn at my old house, as it still hasn't sold yet. Hopefully that happens soon. But during the drive, I listened to a podcast that I very much enjoy from Jack Rice-Sider called Darknet Diaries. If you haven't listened to it, maybe you should, if you like things about the darknet and stories about different hacks and stuff. I'm by no means a hacker, and I wouldn't even call myself a beginner. I don't even think I qualify as a script kiddie. But sometimes I like to have some fun and I like to follow some of that stuff. So it got me thinking about Proxmox and its SSH console and how we have to keep root available in order to have a cluster or other functions work correctly. This is rather annoying and kind of a security flaw. Although it being that if we have a problem where somebody actually can get in to SSH, we probably have far other problems. But still with that, it's an annoying one for me. So I wanted to see if Proxmox actually had any protection on SSH naturally or anything. So I came home and jumped down a rabbit hole of both learning Hydra on Kali, setting up a Kali container, and then later I wanted to see if maybe Hydra had some fancy programming that might be able to bypass it. So I wrote my own very basic Python script to brute force. As you can see in the background, I've run that and it actually works and it actually can reveal the password for our container. So let's look at that first and then we'll look at Hydra run as well. Maybe see a little bit of the difference and talk about them a little bit. So the script I wrote here, I import this in order to work with SSH. Then I import iterative tools and date and time just so I can see how long the program ran. Now, here's the IP address of the server or computer that we want to try to attack, and port 22 for SSH. Proxmox also won't allow you to change the default SSH port, the username of root, and the password's just blank for now. It's kind of bad programming, but it was just the way I wrote quickly. Again, not really a programmer. So then we go into a function which basically calls an SSH connection and tries to achieve it. So with that, let's move into the iteration. We have a character set, a basic one, doesn't include special characters or even capitalized. We're only going to iterate over one letter here, so I give it a known value of the rest of the password. This is done just for time for this video. I was somewhere around 16 hours trying to run this password. We start the timer, and then we call a for loop. Now, this loop is one that I actually found online and just modified a little bit for my own liking to call the SSH and the try and except so that when SSH fails, it doesn't break everything and end the script. And then we print out the end time here at the end. All right, so let's try running it here against our Proxmox console and see what happens. Again, I'm doing this all in containers just because that's how I enjoy to work. Nothing on my host system or anything like that, and easily fired up. There we go. We got the password. Now, I also have the Kali version with Hydra. Now, Hydra uses a dictionary attack, so we feed it a word list and let that run. So Hydra here, we tell Hydra that it's the root username, and then we tell Hydra where our dictionary file is. We're going to use rocku, hence the weird password above. The password is just something I chose to be in the rocku password list, so I knew this would work. Then we call the IP address of the server and we tell Hydra that we want to SSH. So this isn't quite as fast as the script was, but remember, Hydra knows a lot less of the password than the script did. And there we go. There's our password. So with that, we can see that really Proxmox is quite vulnerable to a brute force style attack over SSH. Now obviously longer passwords and things can make this very much more complicated. But this has been successfully done with OPSEC and other things on many systems before. And chances are it'll be done again. Now, if somebody's into your network to the point that your Proxmox system's getting attacked, well, you have a lot of other problems. And necessarily their prime choice might not even be to try to grab SSH. They might try to enter through the web terminal or some other way. I mean, there's all kinds of stories out there about how this was done. And again, I'm no hacker, so I don't really have a good full picture. This is just something that was blaring to me and seemed easy, especially after some of the DDoS attacks that happened back, I think it was like 2011, 2012 when Raspberry Pis came out and everybody was using default usernames and passwords on them. And all the stories about all of that, something that's always in the back of my mind, right? Like we have a default port open, we have a default username, and we do configure our own password. But there's quite a bit of the information known to get in. Obviously, long passwords take a long time to guess, especially with a script like mine, but it happens. Um, so I have a few ideas of how we can block this, either some custom firewall rules, which I'm going to explore a little bit more throughout the weekend, and probably I'll post a video about that. I also might look at installing program like fail to ban or something similar where after a certain number of tries, it either bans the system or it blocks it from accessing for a certain period of time. Not quite sure what that'll look like or anything yet. If you have any ideas, go ahead and drop a comment below. Like, this is all about teaching and learning and making our Proxmox setups and our home networks and home labs stronger. This is what I got into it for, is I wanted to play with things like this. As always, have a good night.